This is a very special story to me. I believe I was 16 or 17 years old when I entered the nursing profession. I will forever remember how terrible it was to see the elderly treated in the manner in which they were, just thrown away and forgotten, as if they were just useless individuals. The little white box. "What is it Mrs. Mathers keeps talking on about?" I asked the nurse at the front desk of the nursing home where I'd been employed for about a week. "I don't know. I just don't know. She's been here for about 2 weeks. The family knows that she's not going to live for another month or two. Therefore, they chose to put her in a nursing home facility. She goes on constantly about some damn little white plastic box," the nurse replied. "Something about a little box?" I questioned. "Just get her dressed for bed and forget about her ramblings on," she instructed. "Yes, ma'am," I said as I walked away from the nursing station. Every day when I came to work, Mrs. Mathers asked about a little white box. She'd lay in her bed all day long with her hands partially covering her face. Each time I moved her hands away from her face to wash them, I could see tears rolling down her cheeks. "Before I die, my little white box, please, my little white box," she'd say. "Mrs. Mathers, I don't know what you mean," I told her. Every day it was the same routine. No matter what I said to her, I just could not understand what it was she was talking about. Several times over the next week, the doctor was called to attend to Mrs. Mathers. Each time I stood outside her room to see if the doctor would pull her through, and each time the doctor left, I would go in and wipe her forehead and make sure that she was comfortable. "My house, my little white box, please, Roger," she said over and over and over again. At 3:30 in the afternoon, as I was about to get off work, I walked up to the nursing station desk and I pulled out Mrs. Mathers' chart. 133 Whitmark was her last known address. I drove the 5 miles or so until I located the address written down on the pad. I arrived to see that there was an estate sale going on. There were cars and people everywhere. "If you're gonna bid, you got to get her number," yelled one man as I walked up. "I'm not going to bid on anything." I walked around the house for about 10 minutes looking at everything that was tagged for sale. I was so surprised that somebody's stuff would be sold even before they died. When I entered the dining room, I saw a gentleman wrapping various items and stuffing them into cardboard boxes. Sitting on the edge of a large table was a little white plastic box. "Excuse me, by any chance did you buy this here little white box?" I asked the man. "I bought everything in this room." "Could I look inside this box?" "Sure, there's nothing in there of any value. I was going to throw it away anyway," he replied. Slowly, I opened the box and I peeked inside. "Oh my God!" I thought. "Can I have this here little box?" I asked the man. "Not worth nothing to me." I ran out of that house as fast as I could and headed back to the nursing home, and I rushed into Mrs. Mathers' room. Mrs. Mathers, it's me, Roger. Look what I got," I said excitedly. She opened her eyes slowly and began to shake as she reached out and took the little white box from my hand. "Water," she cried. I walked over to the sink and I got a cup of water and I set it down on the dinner tray and just stood there watching. "Thank you, dear, thank you so much. God bless you." "You're very welcome," I told her as I patted her on the hand. I wanted her to know that I understood that she was a fine woman and a very private person. I nodded as I left her room with my most courteous manners. When I returned to work the next day, I learned that Mrs. Mathers had passed away during the night. Over all my years working in nursing homes, though there were many deaths, I only attended 2 funerals, one being that of Mrs. Mathers. I stood by her casket for more than an hour as many people filed past. I could not count the times I heard her friends say, "Jane looks at least 20 years younger with her dentures in."